Yay, more wishlist video time. And we're gonna talk about more mechanics. This one's a fan favorite. We're gonna talk about drive reversal, Mir. Remember drive reversal? Yeah, this mechanic, man. Every now and then, someone in the chat's like, Vesper, drive reversal is useless. Mostly from my perspective, a lot of people do not like this mechanic and they say it's very weak. Now, obviously, drive reversal is based off of V reversal from Street Fighter V. They're very similar. However, in Street Fighter 6, it's stronger in some cases and weaker in others. Like, what do you think about drive reversal in general, Mir, before we get into it?
Well, it's an interesting idea in the first place because in a game like Street Fighter 6, it makes much more sense because of regenerating resources, right? As opposed to Street Fighter 5, where the V reversal would take away from your, V trigger gauge.
Yeah,
which
your
was
V
tied to your
gauge.
health. So, in theory, it could see much more play in a game like Street Fighter 6. However, usually, and this is what I guess we're going to talk about, there's better options for your drive bar.
Yeah, like
And,
parry is so strong in general.
Yeah, and unlike V reversal, it loses to different things, namely it's unsafe on block, and that's I think one of the big things about it.
Yeah, I definitely think drive reversal has a lot of knowledge check things. It's something that Capcom obviously didn't want to be used too frequently. Like, if you look at the drive meter and you look at all the drive mechanics in the game, they're not all built equally. For example, like drive rush is very inexpensive, raw drive rush, and same with parry. So they obviously want you to use it often, and drive rush cancels are 3 bars and so on. So the drive reversal is kind of tricky, and you can tell that when they were doing their play testing for it behind the scenes before this game was released, they definitely made sure it's not something that's like your go-to, when somebody drive rushes it on you when you're defending. So if someone's just doing blind pressure on you, most of the time I see people use it when they block like a jump in, like a Dawson player, right? And they'll jump in and they'll desperately hope you don't block it. Like, even that is not 100% it's gonna hit. It's only when you're like overly committing on them.
That's my strategy. When you reveal it to the world.
Yeah, or Gala players, I guess, Gala players. But the big deal is that if you do block it, unlike Street Fighter V, you are -8. And that number is very specific that they chose to, Mir, because they made it so that even if you were in burnout, it's still -4. So no matter what, you get a punish on this thing. And it's a big punish because it's a punish counter, right? So they lose essentially 3 bars, and they're going to eat a fat combo for trying to use a defensive technique. And I think that's why a lot of people are salty about this. They're like, man, why? Why would I use this if they could just block it? It's too slow, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
I think the reason why it has been implemented this way is that a lot like V reversal actually, but different because of Street Fighter 6's different system. They want you to use it in situations where basically it's guaranteed. It's like a way out of certain kinds of guaranteed pressure and certain special moves, for example, that have a lot of recovery. And basically you are investing 2 bars now to not lose 2 bars later, if that makes sense, right? Because through continued pressure, you could probably just lose 2 bars just by blocking, right? Especially if you do not commit to something like a parry.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what they wanted you to do. It's like, okay, I'm going to spend this meter early so that I don't have to deal with this situation. And the drive reversal itself is throw invulnerable, unlike V reversal, which is something interesting as well. Also, it defeats armor attacks.
Yes.
Which is another interesting part because, again, V reversal lost to armor. So, as far as properties, invincibility on it and everything, like beating options to go around it, it actually is very, very effective. So, I think it's clearly designed with that in mind. They really wanted the meter economy to be a very, very important decision that you have to think about all the time in Street Fighter 6. But the issue with that is in a lot of situations where you would use drive reversals, a lot of characters can actually use their invincible, DP, invincible reversal.
Right.
And that kind of like takes away from it because there's no guaranteed damage on the drive reversal, right? Like I mean, it's white health basically.
Yeah.
So uh, as opposed to scoring, like your invulnerable reversal worth of damage, it's not a that good an idea. And also, you cannot use it preemptively, right? Like if you know that a drive rush or a drive impact are coming, you cannot use your drive reversal. You have to block something first.
Yeah, you have to block
Which,
first.
if you could use it in that situation, then it would be so much more useful. But of course, you can't. So like you have to
Right.
make do with what you have.
Right. So,
And well, I mean, just in general, I guess that's its biggest weakness. It's how limited it is in the situations where you can use it, and as
mhm.
such, people can work around it, right? If they know that you're desperate for a drive reversal, they can do pressure that is safe against it, right? Like that you can block and punish.
Yeah. So let me give an example here, because like we were talking about before, what it's used for and what Capcom wants it to be used for is very specific situations and attacks. So one easy one is Ken's Dragon Lash kick. If Ken does Dragon Lash kick and you block it, it is 100% guaranteed drive reversal. It will always work. It will always knock him down. And so it's kind of like an emergency. And you can even option select this and use parry first. And if you didn't get the perfect parry, you can cancel the perfect parry into the drive reversal, because you can cancel parry into drive reversal in this game. So it's like these situations are something you have to lab. They're very, very niche. Another easy example is Lily's OD Condor Spire. Same thing. It's like a super powerful attack, and they want you to, if you don't want to deal with it being super plus and you fail to avoid it and you happen to block it, you have the drive reversal to save you. And once again, it's no coincidence that dry reversal costs 2 bars, because that's the exact same cost as a reversal. So you have something to deal with pressure without blocking, and something to do with blocking. But like you were mentioning before, Amir, it seems more like the reversal stronger, because the knockdown, the knockdown and the gray health, it's not even guaranteed damage, right? Because it's only doing gray damage, and look how far the opponent's being knocked back. You would have to drive rush after them, and then at that point, you're spending 3 bars on them. So it's just very expensive. And when you knock like Lily this far away, she can just get another Windstock, you know what I'm saying? And then it starts all over again.
Another thing about it is that because of how the mechanic works, just like V reversal, it has the opportunity to be used offensively as well, in the sense that if you're pressuring someone, right? And your offense ends for whatever reason, right? Like you're minus, or you've done your string, whatever. Your opponent maybe is trying to get out of the corner desperately, trying to do a block string to build some space. You can dry reversal them into the corner.
Yeah.
Right, and this is potentially very, very deadly. So I don't know if that's intended, like both for V reversal and drive reversal to also behave this way. But since Capcom never really went after that for Street Fighter V, I think it might very well be. So that's another way you can use drive reversal, but it takes away from its defensive capabilities to add to the offense, which is not necessarily what people were expecting or do expect when thinking about this mechanic. So that's another thing that some people would want to see changed, because they'd rather have it be a completely defensive sort of mechanic. Like the offense is already quite strong for some characters in particular. If the opponent's burnt out, they really can't do much against the drive reversal, right? Because yes, it is -4 on block, but it does have some pushback. So if you don't block it, like point blank, it can be difficult to punish.
It's just really, really niche, and it's something that, you like I said, it's not clear like drive impact. It's something that you have to lab, and you have to see what are the situations you can use it. Like even when you use it the way you said, where you use it offensively to keep the opponent into the corner. Even then, it could backfire, and they can block it still, right? Like a lot of attacks will be cancelable or just recover in time, just because drive reversal is so slow. Back to the strengths though. I want to you mentioned it really briefly, but I want to hammer down the strengths as well, because the two clear things that make it better in some ways than the V reversal is the throw invincibility and the armor break. And the throw invincibility is really good against grapplers when grapplers mix you up in this game. Because if the because there's a lot of things that are like minus on block in this game too, right? And if the grapplers were able, plus with drive rush, if the grapplers were able to throw it, it would be just completely useless. Like it's unsafe on block, -8, and on top of it, if it lost the grabs, it'd be too much. And then with DI, there was a lot of characters in Street Fighter V that were able to beat V reversal by armoring through it. So like Akuma would use like his V skill to armor through it, or there's just a whole bunch of things like Cody would use sway, etc., to go, or even like neutral jump to bait it. But in this game, you can't do that because it just straight up breaks armor. Because otherwise, DI would be insane too. Like if you did a normal into DI. So if you're scared your opponent might go for like some kind of cheeky block string into DI, then the drive reversal will beat it as well. So I guess now it comes down to a question of like, do the pros outweigh the cons on the differences from Street Fighter V and Street Fighter 6? And I think they don't. I think.
Speaking of another weakness of drive reversal that I guess we haven't really mentioned, but it is notable compared to Street Fighter V's V reversals, that the range on drive reversal is horrid. It's pretty bad.
It's universal too, right? Like every character is the same range, isn't it universal?
I believe so, although I do not know for a fact.
Yeah, I'm
think
thinking of Dalsum. I'm like,
but it's like
further.
pretty short. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure someone in the comments will let us know.
So like there's
exactly
block strings in Street Fighter V that you could contest with V reversal, like fireball block strings and stuff, because it had some forward movement attached to it. But the drive reversal just doesn't go anywhere. So like sometimes you go to drive reversal a fireball block string and then you get hit by the fire because you haven't moved far enough. So that's another very intentional weakness that they put in. Probably because again, they wanted it to be very, very specific. But
yeah,
as we just mentioned, it's another con to add to the list.
Yeah, definitely. You want to get into the changes now, Amir? Because I want to talk about some consequences first. Because I like I said, I hear a lot of people want this to be buffed, drive reversal. But I believe drive reversal during their testing before the game was released was actually pretty strong, but they dialed it back a bit. One of the key differences we have to remember is that we start every round with full drive meter. So we have access to 3 drive reversals immediately. And in Street Fighter V it was a little different because, you had to spend your V gauge like you mentioned before, right? And so, you have to block your face for a bit. You don't have access to it right away. So if they made, let's say that we sped this thing up, okay? So it's like, it's working half the time when we're pressing buttons and you can use it right away. It would really slow down the pace of the game. And at least me personally, I'm already advocating to nerf raw drive rush, which will slow down the game a bit, right? And if you do both, it might make the game a little too defensive. And you also have to imagine, Mir, giving some characters a way to get out of jail, so to speak, another defensive option could be very strong. It could backfire. For example, Guile. Your character, Mir. If I like, it's always a battle getting towards Guile. But if Guile had access to a stronger drive reversal and you prefer to use that instead of parry, it could be very annoying. If you knocked me back every time I was able to get in. JP, same kind of thing. Dalsum, these characters would be much stronger with the universal mechanic like that. It would definitely affect the game. So we have to be careful how we tune this. I do want to make it stronger, but I'm sure Capcom has thought about this as well. They did not want this mechanic to be used all the time. Not your go-to anyways. They wanted more reversals and parry, like you mentioned before. So what do you think?
I feel this is definitely not a matter of cost, like the reason why people are not using it. Because if it were less expensive, people would be using it and get it blocked all the time, right? Because it would just be more prevalent and people would build their offense around it. So I feel that the solution for the issue is more around being able to create a more consistent tool to defend, right? And so I guess basically we were talking about how there's some situations where you're guaranteed a drive reversal if you want to spend those 2 bars to get them off of you.
Yeah.
And I think there should just be more of those, but
Okay.
it
So
should still be just as expensive because
okay.
I feel like if it is less expensive than a reversal, then it becomes the preferred option for certain characters.
So
Because
if it
certain
was one
characters do
bar, you're
not
saying.
care. Yeah, so like certain or even 1.5. Certain
Okay.
characters do not care about the damage because they, as you correctly said, like zoners, they just get damage from keeping you out anyway and
Yeah.
you making mistakes.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is, if you make it so that it can jumpstart your offense by giving you Oki mid screen, that can also be very dangerous because then rushdown characters can turn any opportunity that the opponent has to kind of like
So you're saying
stop them from pressuring.
if they made the
Hmm?
knockdown closer, like you knock them down, you're right next to them, super plus. Is that what you're saying? Like that would
Yeah,
backfire
but
too.
like in
The
Street
other,
Fighter
okay.
5, some characters had Oki on V reversals,
Right.
right? And mostly rushdown characters did.
Right.
And that, honestly, that was kind of dangerous because not only does it make it stronger in the corner, it would make it more dangerous mid screen. So I feel like that is not a solution either. I suppose my point was, like I said, just make it more consistent for what it's already good at, right? And I'm not sure how you do that without either specifically addressing the startup in certain situations, like as in the drive reversal gets a specific faster startup for certain moves or something,
Yeah.
without also affecting pressure in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say. It's clear that, as you mentioned before, they do not want this mechanic to be too prevalent. They want it to be a little bit more specific,
Right.
because otherwise you'd slow down the pace of the game a lot.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I guess this is my solution. Yeah, is just to make it a little bit more consistent at dealing with situations like blocking certain annoying special moves. In particular, if you use it to deal with meterless moves, right? Like not OD moves, because if you're using OD moves, or sorry, if you're trying to counter OD moves, you're basically spending 2 bars for the 2 bars.
Yeah.
So that's like fairly even. But for non-OD moves, you are spending 2 bars and they're spending nothing. And so at least in those situations, it should be more effective because you're making an investment and then it doesn't work. That'd be pretty whack, right?
Yeah. One thing that I want them to speed it up just a tad for a very specific situation. I think that would be good, that drive reversal could be used for. And that is when somebody cancels their normal on you into drive rush on a block string. So, for example, let's say like a Ken or a Jury or whatever does crouching medium kick into drive rush, and you happen to block. I think you can use drive reversal to stop this from happening if you don't want to hold this pressure. You can see it right here. The problem is like I have this in training mode mirror, so Chun-Li is doing drive reversal immediately. But when you're playing actual match, it's too slow to react to. You have to be like on the ball, right? Because it's just so slow. So I think they should make it so it's just fast enough where if I see the green, I can react and stop it. And then that would be kind of cool because then you would at least have a 2-bar option to defend against their 3-bar if you want to. If you happen to block that crouching knee kick, just to give something to stop the pressure. That's pretty much what I want to do because like I said, I'm really careful. I don't want to go overboard on buffing it. And this speeding up too will kind of help it as well in certain block string situations, but still hopefully keep it niche enough, especially against lights and mediums that tend to be that can be chained, or mediums that are plus for some characters. I think that is the way to go. And maybe like certain super plus buttons that go from drive rush. That's what I want to do.
It's interesting you mentioned that situation specifically, the V reversaling, drive reversaling the drive rush, because I think they specifically made it that way so that it's not fast enough unless the opponent really commits.
Yeah.
Because the meter investment, right?
Right.
They wanted you to be able to stop drive rush for 2 bars, and while they spend 3, and that's the win that you get, right? If you do manage to land it, but
Yeah.
because of this economy imbalance, if you will, then that's probably why it's not guaranteed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that's still their design philosophy, or if that is their design philosophy at all. Of course, I'm guessing. I don't have any idea of what the developers are actually thinking, but that would be an interesting thing to see changed.
Yeah.
I guess since I was mentioning the range earlier, how the range is poopy, I feel like it wouldn't be too bad if the range was
Oh, raise the
increased
range a
just
bit.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
if they're gonna block it, they're gonna block it. That or it's already a pretty big weakness. So you don't want this thing to whiff too. That'd be really
yeah,
silly.
but
I think that's fine.
no, I wanted to say another thing. I was thinking, since I mentioned so much this meter economy thing. I wonder if they could split it so that you have access to your normal drive reversal and then like a cooler drive reversal
Oh
that
no,
costs
another
more but is
mechanic.
faster. Yeah, like it's the same move, but it's like more effective.
Red
Except you
reversal.
spend, yeah, except you spend more drive on it. And I wonder if that would fix the situation of like them not wanting this move to be too good because of how it affects the flow of the game, right? You could
Mm,
have a really a get out of jail free card, and by free I mean spend like 3 bars on it, or even more potentially,
hmm
depending on how effective it is. And maybe that could be a way of solving the drive reversal situation just by giving you more options defensively, right? Again, clearly it is intended for specific uses, so
yeah.
that could be a way of maybe you're really afraid that the opponent's gonna go for lights and your reversal is not gonna work, but you don't want to commit on an actual reversal, so you spend more to get a safer option to knock down the opponent and stuff. That could be another way of going at it, but overall, as we said already quite a few times, it's a very difficult mechanic to balance because of how heavily it can affect the flow of the
The
game
consequences.
based on
Yeah.
based on how everything is so intertwined in Street Fighter 6, right? We talked about it when we were talking about the parry. We talked about it when we were talking about, I mean, anything,
Drive
honestly.
rush. Yep.
Just drive gauge and drive gauge optimization and how you use it is just so important.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways they could go about it. Like the drive reversal, if it lands, they could stop the drive regeneration on your opponent for a little bit. That's one thing they could do, but
Oh,
it's
that'd be
like
cool.
just
Like a
so,
status
it's like
effect.
so, yeah, but it's like, I feel it's a little bit unintuitive in the sense that it's not necessarily maybe what they should go for, but it is a possibility, right? Like there's a lot of ways of addressing the drive gauge imbalance that is created when you adjust any of these mechanics.
I
I
mean,
just would
even
like to keep it as simple as possible because the game doesn't need to be any more complicated than it already is. There's a lot going on.
even if they like, assuming they do nerf raw drive rush, like that would already help drive reversal in some cases. So
Yeah.
it's important. Well, I'm sure Capcom realizes this, but it's important they don't just like change every mechanic all at once. This could be like a future thing that they can do. Because if they change everything all at once, it'll just drastically change the game. And I would rather the game can stay potentially fast than way too slow. Because there's a lot of cool things you can do with drive rush in general that I actually really like. So to slow down the pace too much and have like a zoner meta, I think would backfire big time.
Well, especially if they don't address the zoners at the same time, as like you were saying.
Yeah, it's hard
Because
to look at everything in a
if you
vacuum.
slow down the pace of the game while also nerfing the ability of the zoners to keep out people, then you could arguably have a situation like that work. But
Mhm.
as we mentioned for the parry wish list as well, these are all changes that seem very difficult for Capcom to implement this coming season, right?
Yeah,
This is stuff for a big overhaul of the game.
yeah,
So, I would expect them to probably not touch drive reversal at all this coming patch. I really do think that it's a
especially if they touch
mechanic they're
drive
kind of
rush.
like happy with where it is.
hmm
comparatively, they're just gonna address the elephants in the room instead. Like we were
Yeah.
talking about drive rush. That's
Before they
probably
buff
the
drive
one that
rush.
is getting adjusted. So in the meantime, I suppose we can sit here and think well how it could be changed, but I wouldn't hold my breath that they would do anything about it immediately.
Yeah. Last thing I want to mention, Mir, and this was from after watching the Ed teaser. We saw a preview of Ed using his V reversal where he side switches in the subway train. And I was like, oh, right. Street Fighter V also had V reversals that do side switches and rolls and stuff. We had like
And they were all bad, by the way.
oh, I don't know, man. Some of them were really good. Dude, like, remember Cammy? Cammy, not only she side switched, she attacked you. And then yeah, you could counter it, but it
And
never
then the one that they nerfed to be actually minus on block at one point.
Yeah.
Which was probably the right thing to do.
But Cammy's was strong though. Like you've seen it used a lot. And Cammy, there's Cammy, Rishi, Ed. There's a bunch of characters that roll or side switch and attack. What do you think if they brought that back in Street Fighter 6? Would it be a disaster? Yeah, Fang does the slide.
I mean, like you mentioned, the Cammy ones was fine because it attacked. The ones that were just rolls, I honestly do not think were very good. There were some fringe cases where you would see like Ed players or Colleen players block a fireball and then use the V reversal to get in, which was like really janky.
Yeah.
It was really janky, but I feel that they're really trying to make universal mechanics really universal in Street Fighter 6. Like the only one that isn't all that universal is drive rush, right?
Yeah.
And we see how many problems already caused.
Yeah, a lot of problems. Yeah.
So I doubt that it would do that. I don't know if it would be interesting. I feel like in the case of Ed specifically, it would be a unique feature of his, like as in
yeah, it would be cool.
A special move rather than as drive reversal. Unless they had the opportunity in the future to like I said, do different kinds of drive reversal, right? Like maybe that super drive reversal I was talking about. It could be instead the opportunity to do both the hit and the like roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can choose which kind of drive reversal to get. That could be a solution. I don't know. Again, I don't know what it would do to the pace of the match because
we thought they were gonna do that in Street Fighter 5. Add like a drive reversal choice with the V skill and V trigger. We thought back then. Oh man, Mirror, the chat is mentioning Vega's V reversal. The back.
Yes, amazing V reversal. Yes. Imagine being a character that doesn't have a traditional, DP, a traditional reversal, and you really desperately try to get out the corner.
Yeah.
So you press V reversal, and then you put yourself even more in the corner.
Yeah.
Badass,
it's great for delaying the loss. You can delay the loss by a good like 1.5 seconds, which is really good. It's cool. Like it was so bad, dude. Vegas.
I mean, again, the idea of having character-specific mechanics, it's always neat because, there's a lot of room for creativity.
Yes.
And I'm sure that Capcom feels the same way because that's like how they looked at drive rushes, right? Like you wouldn't have wanted Zangief to have the same drive rush as or not Cammy, I guess Jury.
Yeah.
Better example.
Oh boy.
That'd be pretty intense. So obviously they looked at that on a character basis. But drive reversal, I don't know, defensive mechanics work slightly differently, I think, because if you start to give characters stronger options, like maybe faster, better range and stuff, they can use them in situations where others can't.
Dude, V-shift.
Defensively is very dangerous.
Street Fighter V's V-shift, man, was a disaster because certain characters were able to use it to punish and some weren't because of their design, right? The V-shift was not equal.
The length and the star up and everything was the same, but the characters on which it was affixed on were different, and that was kind of the issue. It's a little like Parry in Street Fighter 3, right? Like how the characters that are already good benefit from it more. Right. So drive reversal potentially could be the same thing if you don't, if you're not careful with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like some characters might get Oki. For example, if you slightly change the distance because they have a very good drive rush, say, or a very good dash, but others won't. And so, like, automatically, that makes it worse for them.
Or they get a meaty fireball or something, right? There's a lot of things that can happen. Exactly. So, I think overall, Mir, I think drive reversal is kind of at the bottom of the list of things for Capcom to look at in terms of drive mechanics, especially since we don't even know what they're going to tune first, and that can send a ripple effect on the tier list in general. But I think it's a topic worth mentioning because, like I said, I do have people in the chat all the time ask me, Vester, what's the point of drive reversal? Like, this thing sucks all the time. And I don't blame them because it's very niche.
I'll say I'd rather have a mechanic be not very good than one being too good, because then you see the mechanic that is too good all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, drive rush. But no, but like for real, at least it has some uses that are like guaranteed uses.
Yeah.
Right. They're very niche, and that's the issue that we were having with it. It's just that, you know, like we don't get to use it enough.
Right.
And it would be more interesting if you could, but
yes,
at least it already has a use. It's not completely worthless. And I mean, I trust Capcom to look at it at some point, especially if everything else is changed. Because since everything's tied together with the drive gauge, as we were mentioning, the moment you change the value of something, then another mechanic automatically becomes more valuable because it's how you spend your resources per, you know, effectiveness of the move.
yeah. As
Right?
long as
Like
there's
every other mechanic gets worse, then drive reversal automatically gets better.
yeah,
So we'll see.
exactly. And and like if you start to see a mechanic more though, it is cool. Like in Street Fighter V, seeing the tactics to counter V reversal and seeing the armor and the counterplay and the baits for that is very exciting to see. Like, you know, Ryu do a jump in or something and then parry the V reversal and then do a full punch. It's like, whoa, you know, like it is cool to see some counterplay to it. So yeah, it's drive reversal is in a very tricky spot in a game that has much more mechanics and defensive mechanics than Street Fighter.
I mean, in this
5.
sense, we're lucky to say that drive reversal, because it isn't, you know, in the middle of every discussion about the game, is probably in like one of the more balanced mechanics, even though it might be a little bit weaker. It has distinct counterplay and distinct ways to use it, just not very many of them, which is basically what we're trying to address. So I'd be curious to see if it becomes more popular once everything else is changed, because like you said, then there's already options to deal with it, but people might not be necessarily aware of them just because they don't deal with it very often.
Right. But we still see it being used every now and then. Okay,
I mean,
let's wrap this up here. Let us know, guys, in the comments below. What do you guys think about drive reversal? Do you guys even use this mechanic? Do you think it needs to be sped up, or some other changes that we didn't mention? But I think we covered most of everything, Mir, on our thoughts of it, pretty much. So hopefully we can talk about some more mechanical stuff and characters here before Capcom rolls out this mysterious balance patch. I'm really looking forward to it. But either case, yeah,
we're completely changed. I was wrong.
They just make it so zoners are just absolutely god. Like JP turns out to be the #1 character anyways, because drive reversal is just too strong. We'll see. Okay, take it easy. Bye bye.
Bye bye.